Okay, welcome to the September 4th meeting of Coronado Rotary, the first annual Jersey Day, the first day of Rotary Literacy Month, and National Be Late for Something Day. Helen Cruz, would you please come up and lead us in the Invocation Pledge? There you are.
If you would all join me, we will take a moment to dwell on some thoughts that bind us all together. We are blessed with family, friends, laughter, and fun. We are blessed with soft rain and a soft light from the sun. We are blessed with stars that brighten each night. We are blessed that we know wrong from right. We are blessed to be Americans. We have so much, we've given so much, and we have hearts full of gratitude. So help us to continue to be mindful of our bounty and to share generously with others. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, I see everybody is gussied up. Even the people from Wisconsin who have hats that have holes in their head. Shannon Canoe, would you come up kindly and introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests?
Hi everyone. This is my first task in my Red Badger. I was supposed to do this, so here I am. So we have one visiting Rotarian, active secretary from Las Vegas, Nevada, Stu Lipoff. And then we'll take this opportunity to introduce our guests of Rotarians, starting from the left.
This is my wife, Harriet. It's with me today. Oh, hello everyone. And this is probably the third time we've been here. You guys have wonderful presentations. We're so happy, and thank you for allowing us to come. And I'm here with my wife, Harriet.
President Pat, fellow Rotarians, and my guest is Emily McGovern, special guest.
President Pat, fellow Rotarians, my special guest is my incredible wife, Rhonda Fleming. She was named after the movie actress Rhonda Fleming, and that was the only reason I landed her, is because I had the right last name.
Hello, President Pat and fellow Rotarians. I'm very pleased to have my guest, Rusty Horse, who's my fiance, with me.
President Pat and fellow Rotarians for the last time. Jim Lewis, my special friend, whose paperwork is in, so he'll be red badging his way through the club. Hi, I'd like to introduce my guest, my husband, Alex Calhoun.
President Pat, fellow Rotarians, my guest, and my beautiful wife, Sarah Kelly, also daughter of past President Scott Metzger.
Thank you, President Pat, fellow Rotarians. I'd like to introduce my guest, Eileen Hauser.
Hi, fellow Rotarians, and I also brought a special guest. This is Samantha O'Brien.
Outstanding. outstanding. I want you all to notice Mark Fleming's jersey. And she said to me, he'll suck up to anybody for a vote. That belongs to Patrick Mahomes. All right, Red Badgers, Carol Young, where are you? You're here somewhere. All right, Mark, tell me who your favorite sports figure is.
This one right here, man.
You even know this jersey?
Other Red Badgers, let's see. Shannon, tell me who your favorite sports figure is.
I grew up playing baseball, so I just was obsessed with Mark McGuire.
Mark McGuire, good St. Louis player. Melissa Crow, where are you, Melissa?
He's over here.
Favorite sports player of any sort? Pick one. All right. This is getting better all the time. Julie Gallagher, favorite sports player?
Walter Payton.
Oh, God. Kathy McDonald. Drew Brees. Ward Wilson.
Let's do something different. Pele, who played real football.
That's a good one. I like that. And Kevin Kinney. Kevin, where are you? Arnold Palmer. Carol, did I get you? Did we get you? There you are. Favorite sports player?
Well, I have to stick with the theme, so it was Gary Beeman who actually brought UCLA fame against SC.
Great, outstanding. So now you know something about the Red Badgers that you may have in common with. They give you a point of reference to connect with them. That's what this is all about, is making us connect with one another. So please, if you like their players or you don't like the players like these not so nice people from Wisconsin over here.
Only to that lady.
Okay, announcements, couple of quick announcements. We're going to go through this really quickly so we can get to the people you really want to hear from, which is not me. All right, announcements. The International Golfing Fellowship is still happening. There should be a slide up. That's where you can register to help. We still need some help. And if anybody has an extra set of women's golf clubs, we need to borrow them. Please let me know and I'll connect you up with the right people. Okay, all right, great. Social, September 12th, Virginia Bears House, alternate meeting 9/26. If you're new to the club, meaning less than 2 years, it's a good opportunity for you to come and talk to leadership about the various opportunities for you to get more involved in Rotary and therefore to meet more people and to have more fun and to live a longer life and to make more money and to be more popular. All right, let's see. Next week after we get done with this little thing we have going on Friday, we will make the big announcement about our Christmas in October program. And last, Dave Johnson's cards are going around. I put out an email about it. There will be more information about his funeral and our participation in it at a later point in time. We are in contact with the family. Okay, around town, last week we did flags. Doug, thank you so much. You and your team, you guys do great work. We appreciate you being out there and doing it. All right, 2 more things to go. Number 1, first, we are at the end of somebody's tenure as a Red Badger. Kevin Kenny, would you come up, please, and do your Who Am I and your Rotary Minute?
We had the flags in for a second.
Okay, no jersey, but I'm a big Padres fan. Go Padres. I found this on the internet. If you're stuck in an elevator and somebody says, hey, what is Rotary all about? 30-second reply. Rotary is the world's oldest and most important service organization with over 1,200,000 members and more than 30,000 clubs spread throughout 160 countries. Rotary provides clean water to those without it, feeds the hungry, battles crippling, debilitating, and disfiguring diseases, and helps people learn to read and write so they can compete in the modern workplace. Rotarians are business and professional leaders who aspire to the highest ethical standards in their vocations and who do not only help those in need in their own communities, but also seek to advance the cause of peace, understanding, and goodwill worldwide through scholarships, youth and adult exchanges, and humanitarian projects. Okay, here we go. Who am I? Like, really, who am I? But here goes. I'm cheating. I got a cheat sheet here. All right. First of all, it's great to be the opening act for the future mayors of of Coronado. I'm like, oh, really? A privilege. With this accent, I like to tell everybody that I'm from the South. The South Shore of Long Island, 34 miles from New York City. But I did head south for education. I went to James Madison University in Virginia. Then I went to the Medical College of Virginia School of Dentistry, which now is known as VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. Then I was graduating a little on the young side, like so many in the room, so I talked to a Navy recruiter, and the next thing you know, I got a haircut. I still had hair at that time. And off to the Navy I went. So the Navy was 4 years active duty, where I got my training. And then I stayed in reserves for another 22. I did retire as a captain in the Navy. Came back to San Diego after practicing in Philadelphia and New York. Opened up Bay Park Dental Group. I was there for 30 years. Everybody's been to the dentist. You know what that's all about. So then, like the old billboard for the movie American Graffiti, where were you at 62? At 62, I had like, uh-oh, what am I going to do now? As we transitioned out of private practice, and I had to like reinvent myself. But when the practice in my 50s, the practice was kind of on cruise mode, and one of my buddies came up to me and he said, hey Kev, they want to make a dental clinic at Veterans Village. I said, great, let's do it, let's pay for it. So I had this study club. It started out, it was a professional study club. It started out with 3 guys in my office and really got a lot of momentum. And at its height, it had 121 members. And while we were doing these dental study clubs, I'd have our national speakers come in, and we charged a nominal fee. I got sponsors. So we were able to raise money, and then I told my accountant what I was doing, and he actually covered his ears. And he said, you can't do that. It's against the law. You got to pay taxes. So you're like Hillary Clinton. You're going to make a foundation. You just can't make money and give it away. So I'm like, really? Okay. So we made a foundation, and we were very, very fortunate in that as we transitioned out of private practice, we decided with the foundation that we would divide its function in 2. One would be national and one would be international. So we'll talk about national first. The big thing would be veterans, so we funded the clinic at Veterans Village. They gave us a nice plaque and a pat on the back and all that. And then I'm an associate clinical professor in the Department of Family Medicine at UCSD. I've been there for 17 years. I taught last night and I teach undergraduates. But at UCSD, I'm the third, like this is a joke, but I'm the 3rd largest fundraiser for them behind Denny Sanford and Irwin Jacobs. So I always crack up when I see that slide. There's a couple of billionaires and there's a nickel and dime dentist right under them. Really? Okay. But then every year I did a big toy drive in my office, and that got a lot of momentum. And for those who know golf, the golfer Charlie Huffman, he partied with me last year. And we supported this organization called STEP. They have spoken here, Support the Enlisted Project. They got in touch with me, and I said, what do you need? So we gave them, Charlie Huffman's kids, they picked out, we gave them 20 bicycles, 3,000 toys, and we were featured on every ABC, NBC, CBS, all the local news covered it. I was like shocked. I should have stuck around before the news people got there. But then, okay, now we go to some slides. Now we go to like, well, hey, what are you doing now besides, going to baseball games, playing golf, hanging out with my wife? But I've done 11 humanitarian mission trips out of the U.S. And like every place I go, it's almost the same thing. Like, this is not my new house on B Avenue, which we're moving into. Like, this is like one of these typical shacks. This was from Cambodia this year. This year we went to Cambodia and we went to Panama. And Joe, you can just like rapid fire through these. There is like extreme poverty throughout the world. Every place I've gone, it was like Panama, Dominican Republic, Cambodia, Guatemala, you name it. It's almost the same story. And while we were in Cambodia, people were working for $1 a day in the rice fields. And it's really just hard to believe. It's like National Geographic. And like this is the people living like this. And so a couple slides will come up, and it looks like there's some geeky dentist in a Padre hat. There he is. So we start out, we see these kids, and we do the best we can. And what I've really grown into is that I put together a team of doctors. We try to fund it, and then we head off to different countries and save the world, as I'm still kind of relative and I have this skill set. Different organizations get in touch with me, and away we go. And then we'll take it up to present day. what we're working at right now. And why I'm in these foreign countries, the last slide Joe was going to show is Rotary. Okay, we'll just leave that one up there. Every country I went to, you'll end up meeting different dentists from around the United States. And I said, hey, how'd you get here? And I said, well, I wrote a check and took a plane. They go, no, aren't you sponsored by your local Rotary Club? So while I was in Cambodia, everybody else was sponsored by the Rotary Clubs in Denver. While we were in Panama, they were sponsored through Rotary Clubs from Providence, Rhode Island, in the Boston area. Keep me. And then in Panama, they had like Panama City sponsored, Cambodia, Phnom Penh sponsored them. I'm like, what's this Rotary thing? So here I am. I said, when I get back to America, let's really look into this and maybe we could partner. So what is going on in 2024, as I have 11 seconds left on the timer here, is that we're going to do another giant toy drive. We kicked that off. We're going to support the Enlisted Project again. There's a lot of very young military families that are just getting by because the wives are young. Like my mom had a baby at 20. She married some guy who just got out of the Korean War. My dad, it's like the way it worked. So there's a lot of young families, and Christmas is crunch time, and it's hard to buy bicycles and toys, and we're going to do that again. And then the next thing is we are planning another humanitarian mission trip. This will be back to Guatemala next March. And I'm hoping that the Rotary Club, we can all work together and partner to save the world. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Alan Kinzel was the one who got me into Rotary.
I'm very proud to sponsor Dr. Kevin Kinney. I just want to say one thing. He is the most generous, kind, go-getter kind of person. He's going to be a great addition to our club. Let's give a round of applause for Dr. Kevin Kinney.
Yeah, I made it. Now I can eat lunch.
You can eat lunch. All right, we have one more thing to do because we have a little event on Friday that we need to talk about for just a couple of minutes before you get to the main show. Brenda Joe, come up here and talk to us about whatever it is we're doing Friday evening.
First, I want to thank you for having Jersey Day so I didn't have to wear my capsule outfit one more time. Okay, so I'm just here to remind you that we have a thing called the Little Silent Auction going on, bidding out right now. And I wanted to highlight 2 items today. The first is a jewelry party with amazing wine and cheese type stuff from Terry Curtin. And she has brought today some items in the back where you can take a look. She chose things that you can do within a 3-hour period. So we're looking for you guys to get together, get your group, and start bidding on that one. The second one is a giclée that was done by our own Carol Young. And unfortunately, we brought this here to highlight it, but fortunately, as soon as someone saw it IRL, they full bid, and it is now gone. So congratulations, Carol, thank you so much. But alas, to all of those that are still looking for items, I'm going to run through these really quick. We have the Townie Go electric bike that's been generously donated. Passes to the Del Mar Club, the Turf Club. If you haven't been, you don't get those for free. You have to be a club member. So great opportunity. Sparkling wine and painting. So you'll paint bottles of champagne and be able to take them home with a group. And then lastly, for you unfortunate souls who didn't get your tickets in time, we do have an opportunity to have your own wine tasting at Quickly Fine Wines, which is just downtown. So I wanted to share those with you. And just one last note, I know only 2 minutes, but I think it's so important to highlight, not that we're just doing these auctions and we have a party on Friday, but we really are making a difference in Gaza. They were able to get in just over the last couple days and immunize over 200,000 children. And it's moving forward, and hopefully they'll get to the 600,000, and hopefully again in 1 month they'll get them again. So thank you all for being incredibly supportive, and we look forward to all of your bids online and seeing you on Friday. Yes, Miss Terry has a comment.
Oh, I just want to say, and everybody tell your non-Rotary friends to bid too. It's open to all the public. I think everybody heard you.
Yep, and actually, I'm going to make one more announcement. We also have one amazing painting also back there that is still up for bid. So if you want to look at that on your way out, you can do that too.
Okay, before we get to the main event, I want you to know that today truly is National Be Late for Something Day. And there's a guy in this club who is traditionally late for the Rotary meetings all the time, and it seems to me that it'd be appropriate for him to have his own alarm clock. So Howard, if you'd come up and get your alarm clock. In part, it's because he's exercising and staying young, but there you go. And you don't get to make any comments either. No, you don't. It's my pleasure to introduce our past president, Scott Metzger, who will be our host for today. Scott, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, President Pat. Are we bringing the candidates up now? Let's all come on up. And I want to say good afternoon to everybody and say how pleased I am to see us such a huge turnout for this very important meeting. When Jean Marie asked me to moderate this, I was kind of on the fence, but then she told me there was a free lunch involved, so I was so here I am. We're fortunate to have all three of the candidates who are running for mayor, each of whom currently sits on the Coronado City Council. Seated at the table, my left to right, we have Councilman Casey Tanaka, Councilman Mike Donovan, and Councilman John Duncan. And there are rules of engagement for this debate, which I'd like to go over. They were debated heavily, and they came together on CNN and figured out how they were going to do it. Here's the rules of engagement. There are 4 questions that will be asked of each candidate, and at the end of the question period, each will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. The first question was shared with each of our candidates in advance, but the other questions are new to each candidate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each of the questions and 2 minutes for a closing statement. The first question will be asked alphabetically by last name. Because they're also seated alphabetically, I'll then move down the line so that every candidate has the opportunity to answer first, in the middle, and last. This is out of fairness to all the candidates. And there is a rule of civility, but knowing these gentlemen, I'm sure we don't need to review that. So we have timekeepers ready?
Yes.
Timekeepers are ready? Okay. Then we'll get started with the first question, and this will be first John Duncan. And this is the question that's already been shared with everybody. Briefly introduce yourself and explain why you believe you are the best candidate to serve as our next mayor.
I'll stand up just for this one so you can see me. First of all, I'm not familiar with this new alphabet that was instituted. But I'm willing to go with the flow, and it's one of the main qualities I bring potentially as mayor.
I'll take that. I'm an English teacher. It's my problem.
2 minutes. So usually when I do my openings, I talk about my experience and about my passion on the main issues I'm working on, such as the Tijuana sewage issue and the bridge suicide barrier, infrastructure, and things like that. And I introduce my family, but there's so many Rotarians here, and by the way, good afternoon, President Pat, Rotarians and guests. But today I wanted to do something slightly different with my opening. I've never really talked about this too much before, but I wanted to touch base on what the impact of Rotary has had on me as a leader and what I think that will bring to my future as mayor of Coronado. Rotary has something that isn't really talked about, which is there's this unspoken, quiet watching of new Rotarians. So I'm sorry to scare the Red Badgers, but it's true, you're watched. And no one really says anything to you that you must do this or you must do that. They just watch you as you go through your time in Rotary. And then slowly over time, these people that you have tremendous respect for come to you and quietly say something like, thank you. And you say, for what? You've met our expectations on what we want, what Rotary stands for giving, for showing up, for doing what you say you're going to do. And that respect from fellow Rotarians is something that really touches me, and I try to incorporate that into the next 10 seconds. Let me just say that that desire to live up to your respect and meet your expectations is what hopefully I've done as a Rotarian, as a council member, and you can expect from me as Mayor of Coronado. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Councilman Mike Donovan.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, first, thanks to President Pat and Jean Marie Bond and Mr. Metzger for holding this, giving us all a chance to chat with everybody. I wanted to spend the time and just give you a little bit of my background. I came to Coronado in the mid-70s in the Navy. It's kind of a common theme. But I graduated from the Naval Academy in '74. I went through a program the Navy had to go get an immediate master's. So I went to MIT, got a master's in engineering. And then I went another year of training, got a lot of training from the Navy, in the Navy's nuclear propulsion program. So I got here in '77. My first ship was one of the original nuclear-powered cruisers, USS Bainbridge. So we got to Coronado and just fell in love with it immediately. I spent 10 years on active duty, have been a resident of Coronado since 1977, spent 20 years in the reserves after that, retired as a captain with 30 years of total service. So when I went into the reserves, I went to work at Solar Turbines across the bay. You go by it every time you go to the airport. Was there for over 30 years. Had great opportunities. Solar has nothing to do with solar energy or solar power. It's an industrial gas turbine company, part of Caterpillar. But I had the opportunity to work in many different sectors of the business, from engineering, sales and marketing, product development, quality. So I got a lot of good experience in the corporate business world. So I retired in 2016 and decided to run for council and got elected. And up at the end of my two-year term, or 2 4-year terms. So I'll just end by saying I'm the only candidate that has military experience, corporate business experience, and now public service experience as one of your council members for the last 8 years. So thank you.
Mr. Tanaka.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real honor to be here. I can't name a more important meeting that happens every week in Coronado than probably a meeting of your club, the Rotary Club. There are more current or former city council members, school board members, mayors, military leaders, business leaders. This is a very important group, so I'm very honored to be here. And you're not a social group. Obviously, you are very social people. But you do a lot of important work, and that's not lost on me. And if you're saying, well, Tanaka, you're not a Rotarian, why don't you shut up? Well, I have a day job, and your work is too important to sort of be a halfway member. But again, I've always been in awe of what you do as a club. My name is Casey Tanaka. I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. I moved to Coronado when I was a second grader in 1983. I'm the only person running for mayor that's a product of the Coronado school system, so I want to highlight that. I'm very proud of the education I received here. I'm also very proud to have gone back and be part of that solution of teaching your kids and putting families first. I've been teaching at Coronado High School, AP US History, and US Government for the last 26 years. And I guess one thing I want to just say right up front, like, why am I running for mayor? Why should you vote for me? I've devoted my adult life to this city and its families. And I've also been lucky to say that this city has elected me to the city council or to the office of mayor 5 times. So whether you like me or not, you've invested a lot of time, money, and energy in training me up. And I really do think I've been a sponge for this. So, well, who do you want as mayor? You want somebody who knows how to do the job, is highly competent, and so on. So I want to tell you, I'm going to borrow from Friday Night Lights, I am clear-eyed about what it means to be the mayor of Coronado. And I've devoted my life to this sort of thing. And so I really want to serve this community the best way I can. I want to help the next city council find its voice and give clear direction to our city. And if you'll have me back, I'd certainly be honored to serve as your mayor again.
All right, thank you for those answers. With the second question, we'll begin in the middle with Mike Donovan, followed by Casey Tanaka, and then Duncan. And here's the question.
In your estimation, what are the top 3 challenges facing the city of Coronado today? First, identify the top 3 challenges, and then explain which one of these is the top priority for you and how you would go about addressing that challenge.
All right, thank you for the question. Well, hands down, the top number 1 challenge is our cross-border sewage issue. So that's a no-brainer. So that's something, it's just a problem. It's going to be long-term. There's still quite a ways to go. I think we're as far along as we've ever been solving that problem now, but it's definitely going to need a lot of attention over the next several years. Beyond that, the problems that I would be focusing on as mayor, first of all, we've learned some lessons with some of these big rainstorms that we've had. We had a big storm back in 2019. I remember it because it was the day before Pearl Harbor Day, December 6th. And then we had another one, obviously, this past January. And we, going into these, we knew that we had some areas that were going to be sensitive to heavy rains. And we had a program in place to correct those. And since it didn't rain that much before this, we had a plan in place, but we weren't as ready as we could have been when we had these huge storms. So we're going to focus more on infrastructure, particularly our storm drain system, sewage system, that kind of thing. The other issue that I think is important to me, that I call it kind of a sleeper issue, is right now the Navy is working on an environmental impact supplement to allow 3 carriers to be in port for up to 6 months out of the year. Right now, the environmental study is for 29 days out of the year. The reason they want to go so long is because they want to do maintenance down here, because the shipyard, there's only one shipyard on the west coast up in Bremerton, Washington, and it's pretty chock-a-block. So down the line, we need to be aware of this. We need to get to senior Navy people and let them know what the impact of this is going to be on our city. So thanks.
3 biggest issues, I think, are number 1, Sacramento. Sacramento makes the rules, we have to follow them, and Sacramento is very gifted at handing out rules that we would never vote for ourselves. But we've got to follow them. And again, I have paid attention to Coronado politics since at least the 1980s, and all the people I've identified with have been anti-density. They have said that, if you want to kill the golden goose, let too many people move to Coronado, take too many cars, just stuff everything in Coronado. And if that's what you're for, vote for someone else. But if you think that one of the keys to protecting Coronado is fighting density and trying to not overpopulate our place, I'm your guy. But the bad news is Sacramento has the opposite point of view. So they're the number 1 threat to this city. Number 2, I would agree, is the border sewage issue. I want to compliment the people who have gone before me. I think they have done yeoman's work, and I have 0 criticisms of what they've done. So the next council, the next mayor needs to carry on that work and continue a full court press. But what I think is the most germane job for the next mayor is you're going to have a city council of 5 people with 2 brand new members. And so a mayor can mislead you into saying, I'm the one that's going to set the table, I'm the one that's going to say how we're going to do this. That's not the type of mayor that I am. I'm the type of mayor that's going to listen intently, make sure that the 5 of us in the city council, we're the ones collectively making that decision. And sometimes a good mayor needs to not take credit for things and needs to step back and let the other 4 voices shine. So that's who I am. That's what I want the next mayor and the next city council to be, one cohesive unit where we understand where each of those 5 people are coming from, and that the mayor's the facilitator of that. It's not the dominator of that. And again, whether it's good or bad, I feel like I have kind of a soft touch, and that's what I want to bring to the office of mayor, and attacking whatever these issues are, whether they're border sewage, Sacramento being a disaster, and so on. So again, that's what I want to be, is someone that helps the city council find its voice and be a team of men.
So similarly to what I was saying in my opening statement, none of us are entitled to be mayor, right? You decide. We have to earn your vote. It is very easy to say, hey, there are problems, but the real test is what specifically will we do as your mayor on the problems. So for instance, on the sewage issue when I was elected, I brought back to council, we need to have our sewage subcommittee come back. The one that Whitney Benzian and Richard Bailey use to help get the $310 million in the USMCA to actually build and redo the plants, because we have an actual existential and real threat to our city. Our city cannot function. Whatever you like about our city, going to the beach, grandkids, maybe you're a business owner, none of that. Your real estate value, none of that's going to exist if our beaches are shut down for 3 more years in the fashion that they exist today. So I've done every single thing in my power to attack this huge major issue. From going to Washington, D.C. with Mayor Bailey, to going back again with Mayor Aguirre. It's one thing to say, let's build coalitions, let's have everybody do everything together. It's another thing to go actually build coalitions and get things done. To go to Washington, D.C. and get the most liberal members of Congress and the most conservative members of Congress in the worst time in congressional recent memory to getting anything done. And we did get an additional $150 million for this issue. I'm going back on September 9th to work on this issue. I go to Mexico City, I go to Tijuana, I joined the advisory board of the group that runs the plant, the IBWC. I've moved their meetings here to Coronado and have 3 of them here in a row. I'll do anything on these major problems. And when we talk about Sacramento, what are you gonna do about Sacramento? You need to build coalitions like I built at Sandag. You need to lobby HCD, the Housing and Community Development Department, on actually making real changes. It's fine to talk about it, but you really need to do the work, which is what I'm committed to doing to earn your vote. Thank you.
Okay, so for our third question, we're going to be again with Councilman Tanaka, then Councilman Duncan, and then Councilman Donovan. The mayor is but one of 5 votes on our city council that establishes policy for the city. Please share why you believe you will be the more valuable to the city of Coronado as mayor rather than as a councilman. And related question, if you were endorsing any of the city council candidates, let us know who and why.
I've been on the city council for 18 years. 8 of them were as mayor, and I've had some really great experiences. When I see Al Overham sitting over here. Al Overham would sometimes be the one in a 4-to-1 vote. But we always understood where Al was coming from, and I can tell you it's really gratifying when Al says, you know what, I don't know if I agree with you, but I'm gonna vote with you on that. And once in a while, when you build that sort of teamwork and camaraderie, Al is the one that said, hey, we should have a free summer shuttle program. I'm your MTS rep. What do you say? And I'm like, first, I'm happy to support you. And B, if you remember, I said, you're the cheapest guy I know. Like, I can't believe you're willing to spend any money on this. If you're willing to, I'm willing to. So I mentioned that. That's one anecdote. I see Mike Wywoody here. He's one of my great friends. And I think that is a trick. That is something I have a talent for. I really do care what the other council members think. I really don't want to put my opinion ahead of them. And sometimes the uncomfortable work of being a mayor or a council member is you have to say, well, if I was going to vote on this by myself, I'd vote yes. But I'm going to back it up. I'm going to support you. I'm going to vote the other way. Last night we talked about whether or not to declare an emergency on the sewage issue. Historically, I haven't been for that, but we had a bunch of people come to us and say it's time to do it. I said, fine, let's go for it. And no one else really wanted to. Instead, we passed a resolution that's really clear about what our issues are. And in the end, I said, I'll vote for that. Because that's the job of coalition building. You have to somehow take your own interests and subvert them. And people have to trust you. You have to be a fair dealer with other people so that when it comes time for Al to say, hey, do you want to do a free summer shuttle program? I'm like, all right, cheapskate, let's give it a shot. So again, I really enjoy the work. I've really enjoyed working with the people on the city council with, you maybe can guess 1 or 2 exceptions, but I'll let you figure that out. But I really look forward, none of these gentlemen, one wear a yellow hat, but in any event, I really look forward to the chance to serve again in the future if you'll have me back.
You're up. Let's see, question number 3. Yeah, you're up.
And the question again was why would I be better as mayor as a council member, and then that nonsense about who I'm supporting for council. All right, so for me, as you can tell from my prior answers, I have a lot of passion for problem solving and working on issues. I don't really, while it's an amazing honor, I don't want to disrespect it by saying this, but my main goal to be on council and as mayor is to actually have power to actually get work, to get things done. If there aren't problems, then I'm glad to serve, but it doesn't drive me like the way I have the drive I have now. And so to answer the question specifically, as mayor, you definitely have a little bit more gravitas and power across the bridge when you're on Sandag, when you're working in Congress on any issues that face us, Sacramento, as was mentioned. That type of lobbying, you do get a little bit more doors open a little bit easier. And frankly, another real honest part of it is I do have concerns that if I'm not the mayor, right, I might not be appointed to these positions that I have now. And so to continue the work, that is my main driver. Now, building coalitions on council is very, very important. And watch the meetings. You know, I'm all for what you see with your eyes and you make the decisions. I want the voters to be informed. I don't want to trick anybody. If you watch the meetings, you'll see how coalitions are built and you'll see where most of the votes come down. To me, building a coalition is not joining a 4-0 vote and saying I built a coalition, right? It's putting together that 4-0 vote. That's coalition building. And that's what I'm very proud of having done on all the agencies I serve. Doesn't matter what party they are. All of the people that I work with on Sandag, the vast majority are from, couldn't be more different. The most conservative politicians from East County and some of the most liberal politicians from some of the beach cities. But we found common ground in the county and the city of San Diego, abusing all the towns around the county, using the weighted vote and a bunch of other things, and now the weighted vote hasn't been used in over a year. That's building a coalition, getting something done that is actually benefiting Coronado. Thank you.
You can stay standing. Oh, wait, sorry. Mike, go ahead.
Well, it's a really good question, because practically speaking, the mayor has one vote, just like all of the other council members. But the way I see it, the mayor needs to be more of a consensus builder and work with the rest of the council to influence them or inform them, promote the discussion so that we can come up with some sort of a compromise. You know, in the military, you don't have a whole lot of collaboration. You get an order and you carry it out. In business, you know, if you have a good idea, you have to not only convince your boss, but you have to convince other people in the business because you're going to need their support. So I've got experience in collaborating, influencing other people, but specifically on the council, the way I've approached the job is when an issue comes up, I feel like I need to be fully, I need to understand the issue fully. So I don't just read the staff report, I do my own research, I talk to people on staff, I talk to residents, and I become fully engaged in what the issue is, what the pros and cons are. And by that, then I can make my statement on why I either support the issue or I don't, with facts and data behind it, so we make data-driven decisions. So by doing that, I think I would then have credibility, I think I do have credibility, that when I speak, people know that I've done my research, and then we can have an open discussion, and if they agree with what I have to say, I might change their mind or at least get a quorum on how, you know, I believe that the issue should be voted on. So that's kind of my approach to working in a group like a city council and to drive collaboration and compromise.
Okay, so no endorsements, I guess. Okay, so let's move on to our fourth question, and here I'll begin with Mr. Duncan, followed by Mr. Donovan, and then followed by Mr. Tanaka. If elected, what would you hope would be your key accomplishments as mayor? And I will tell all three of you that I've gotten a lot of questions from Rotarians with respect to the Win Room, so if you want to talk about that in this answer, go ahead.
So the key accomplishment I hope to achieve, and you may also, I would urge you to read the Eagle answers from the candidates today that were published somewhat on this specific issue. But for me, the key would be at the end to deliver on what I've promised and said is happening. People don't really believe necessarily that we have made major progress on the sewage issue, and rightfully so. The water in Imperial Beach right now is the dirtiest it's ever been because most of the pumps are down. And it's hard to get people to understand that the original 310 million plus the additional 150 million just arrived at the IBWC, even though the first 300 was awarded in 2020. But to bring that all the way through, right, to actually have the plants operating properly. Same with Mexico's plant 6 miles south of the border at San Antonio de los Buenos. That plant has been down for more than a decade. With a lot of pressure, Mexico's federal government came in, took over that plant this year, and promised it would be up and running by the end of September. I went down and inspected that plant with some Congress members and Mayor Geary, and they are making progress. It looks like they're short on some parts, and they'll have it done by the end of the year. But the real key for me on that is not so much which month they get it done, but if they get it done and operating before next summer, we probably will have almost no closures next summer at our beach, because all of that sewage that closes our beach during the summer comes from that plant 6 miles south of the border. The other sewage that affects us most of the year comes from the Tijuana River through the US plant and is right at the border from the rains from the mountains. So working on that and ending my term as mayor, or hopefully 2 terms if that's what it takes, but to actually be able to look at our town and see what it should be, this beach, small town culture, and our ability to use our most valuable asset, the ocean. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, well, the main thing that I would like to see done in the next 4 years would be to either have the sewage issue solved completely, but I know that's probably a pipe dream, but at least have it to where I think the data that I've seen is once we get the new plant built, once Mexico does what they're doing, we'll at least get it down to where we'll be down around 10% of the closure days that we have now. Now that's still not satisfactory, but then we could go from there and get it down to 0. The other things, I guess, that I've been working on that I'd like to see come to closure, and we're close to it. I've been a real advocate for historic preservation here in town. I was on a subcommittee a few years ago with Carrie Downey, and we took a total review of our historic preservation ordinance, made some recommendations to make it sustainable, and I think all but one of the recommendations we made were accepted by the rest of the council. And we're at the tail end of the last recommendation, and I think we'll have that done by the end of the year. But the whole goal is to have our historic preservation thrive. I look at it as part of our brand in Coronado, trying to keep our city residential, and history is an important part of our city. And then last but not least, I think I want to continue the good relationship we have with the Navy. The Navy gives us most of the traffic that we endure, not counting the tourists during the summer, which we're all aware of. But I think there's some way we can actually look at traffic. It's a perennial problem, but to me, it's a transportation issue. It's getting people from point A to point B, getting them out of their cars. We've tried a couple of things, the free summer shuttle, the Island Express, which is in a pilot program now, but there's some other things I think we could do, teaming up with some of the other companies, maybe our cab company. So I'd like to see us pursue that as kind of a longer term strategy.
I joined the city council in 2002, so that was 22 years ago. I was a little pup. But the 3 people that I joined the city council with who were already there were Tom Smizik, Patty Schmidt, and Phil Monroe. And so if you think about what do you know about Tom Smizik, what do you know about Patty Schmidt, what do you know about Phil Monroe, they were very fiscally conservative. And Tom Smizik in particular was a real stickler for not adding any new expenses, not adding any new staff, and so on. So for better or worse, I learned the ropes under people who had a reputation for fiscal conservatism and fiscal restraint. This city council right now is a good one, and we aren't mismanaging anything. But I think we could do a better job of explaining how much money do we have, what are those reserves, and how much, if any of those reserves, we're willing to spend. We're getting ripped right now, and I'm one of the people getting ripped for being willing to spend $31.5 million on Kays Park. I voted to spend $26 million in Parker Pump Station. I did not vote to spend $10 million on the Wind Room, but I would have voted to spend $6.5 million. So part of me is having a hard time telling you that I want to bring back fiscal restraint to our city when I've been guilty of maybe not exercising as much. But like I said, I learned the ropes under people who, that was their reputation, was that Coronado was not going to overspend and that we were going to be as fiscally conservative and disciplined as the people who live here. I think we as a city can do a better job communicating what it is we're spending our money on, how much money do we have, what's our capacity. I'm happy to report to you as anyone, we don't have any bonds out. We haven't been borrowing. But I think we have done a poor job of saying, how much money do we have? What are we going to spend it on next? And when you hear something like, hey, they want to spend $30 million in Case Park, we have not communicated effectively to you. What does that mean? Or I keep trying to tell people, we haven't committed to that dollar amount. We have future meetings to figure out how much, if anything, we want to spend out of that master plan. So I want to bring back a reputation of fiscal discipline that I think is there but isn't being communicated well.
Well, we've stuck to our schedule, and therefore we're going to expand the closing statements to 3 minutes.
3 minutes, all right.
So the order for closing statements, we're going to begin with Councilman Donovan, then Casey Tanaka, and then Mr. Duncan.
All right, well, thanks. And again, thanks to Rotary and everyone for being here and on Zoom to give us an opportunity to tell you some of our thoughts. I want to kind of build on something Casey said earlier in one of the responses about Sacramento. Has a lot of oversight, obviously. I mean, we're in the state of California. But I want to take that thought a step further. You know, the 8 years I've been on the council, if I were to ask what is our biggest challenge, our biggest challenge is that we've got all these agencies and organizations that have some jurisdiction over Coronado. You know, for example, the Navy. The Navy owns way more property in Coronado than we do, which I always found funny, but not funny, but you know, funny. But you know, we have other organizations. You know, Caltrans. They're focused on, hey, we got to keep our roads, we got to keep traffic moving in and out. That's what we're worried about. We've got the port. They have their mission. The California Coastal Commission. So all these different organizations and agencies, the housing agency that we just went through a painful allocation for our housing element. These agencies are all relatively narrowly focused. So they have a mission, and that's fine. I mean, that's their mission. So they dictate to us, here, you got to do this, you got to do that. But the only people really looking out for the whole city is your city council. You know, 3/5 of are sitting right here right now. And the big challenge is to maintain what we want Coronado to be, a residential city, you know, residential quality of life, and still meet all of these outside forces that we have to, most of them we have to figure out how to meet. So to me, that's the huge challenge. And I mean, it's kind of a fun challenge. You win a few, you lose a few. I'd say we kind of lost on the housing, unfortunately. But that's one area where I think we need to be more proactive this time around. The next cycle is going to be starting in 28, so it's only 3 or 4 years away. So I wanted to leave you with that thought, what our challenges are. I've recognized that challenge, and everything I do in relation to being on the city council, in relation to the city, is based on doing the best we can for our city. And you know, that sounds like motherhood and apple pie, but that's why I ran for council in the first place. I don't have any hidden agenda. I tell people, you can ask me anything you want, and I'll tell you what my feelings are. I'm totally transparent. But I've been working that way for the last 8 years, and as your mayor, I'll continue to work that way. Thanks.
So I wrote down 3 words. The last 3 things I want to leave you with are trust, competency, and accessibility. The most important thing you do is you elect 5 people to govern on your behalf. Now, I don't know if that's a great idea, but that's what we do. You entrust the 5 of us to run the city the best we can. So if we're going to act on your behalf, you have to trust us. So we'll always be putting Coronado's interests first, and that there's not some side group. Is Casey aligned with this? Is Casey aligned with that? And we're all going to tell you that you can trust us, but I can prove it. I can put 2 decades of my life and my record in front of you and say, I've never sold out Coronado. And you never have to worry about that. Again, I'm poor. I'm not in it for the money. Again, I'm doing it because I love this city and I want it to be represented well. Competency. You don't want to elect a schmuck. You don't want to elect somebody who doesn't know how to do the job. You don't want to elect somebody who says, gee whiz, and isn't good at it. So I hope I've already demonstrated that you've trained me up over 2 decades to know what I'm doing, to have I think I have the deepest institutional knowledge of this city and its government of anyone you've ever trained. So if you want to put that to work for you again, hire me, I'm ready to go. Last, accessibility. I think it's incumbent. If you're the mayor of Coronado, you need to be easy to get a hold of. And I challenge any of you to say, I have a hard time getting Casey to respond to my email. If anything, you'll be like, well, he only responded within an hour. I'm used to 30 minutes. So again, I strive to be as easy to get a hold of, to be a big ear to listen, and you're not going to, version 2.0 like on my yard signs, the same or more. So again, that's why I'm doing this. Hopefully you already get it. You already know who I am. I've already passed your test in terms of trustworthy, competent, and you already know, yeah, that guy is very accessible. He's ready to be my mayor. If I have a problem, he'll be Johnny on the spot in terms of responding and doing everything he can to address the problem. And last, I guess I want to say in trust, you're not always going to like my answer. Sometimes my job is to explain to you why the city can't help you on this. Or sometimes my job is to say, I want to help, but there isn't an avenue of approach that I can see. Am I missing something? So again, that's why I want to be your mayor. I want to be, again, your advocate, a person worthy to be casting the votes that you don't get to cast yourself. And again, if you're like, well, they're all going to say that, again, look at the years of service I put in and ask yourself, how many times were you like, Tanaka blew it? And if you do think I've made a lot of mistakes, then I think you should vote for someone else. But again, if you're like, more often than not, I think Casey sees things the way I do, then that's why I want to be your mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely gave up my 25-year legal career for the $1,000 a month on being mayor. Wow, okay. So let me hit some of these topics, and I promise I won't talk about sewage. All right, first, historic. I am a passionate believer in our small town charm, not because of the slogan, but because I put my time and treasure into restoring 4 historic homes in this town. I'm working on my 4th now. I've served on the Historical Association Board of Directors. I'm very involved with it, and I'm very, very proud of all the people who've come before me and have helped preserve what we have. Specifically, in regard to the housing issue and the cycles that were discussed earlier, I am working on the SANDAG board now on the procedures for the next cycle so that we are treated more fairly and not given the ridiculous thing what happened in the last time, which was the first time this has ever happened in a cycle, where Coronado was charged with all the Navy jobs to provide housing and given 0 credit for any of the housing on the Navy bases. So that's what I'm actually working on at SANDAG and with HCD. Fiscal responsibility, super, super important. One of the first things that happened with me on council, using fresh eyes, not accepting the status quo, asking questions, and not being afraid to be wrong, was when we got our budget, looking at it and saying, millions and millions and millions of our dollars are returning 0.5% or 1% or so of interest. Can we move any of this money elsewhere? That was an extraordinarily difficult journey for me to get done. It took 8 months. We moved $85 million. Last year, it is still in funds earning over 5%. That is a net millions of dollars to this town and our fiscal ability to do well. And that's our responsibility to do that for you as citizens. And that type of analysis is what I bring to council based off of all my years of experience representing financial institutions and working hard and just asking questions to see what the answer is. Communication. Communication is something I am extremely proud of. The biggest criticism I get from my friends in this town and from many Rotarians in this room is, hey John, pace yourself. You really don't have to be everywhere in town. You don't have to be at 4 events at once in a day. But for me, not seeing some nonsense on social media, but being in front of Coronadans and looking at them and saying, hey, ask me the tough question on a vote or on an issue, and being able to hear their reply some of those conversations start off where they were in complete disagreement, and at the end at least we say, hey, we understand each other. That is a huge issue for me. I just want to end by saying we can get the bridge suicide barrier done and built. There's going to be an announcement from Caltrans within a month. They have awarded that contract, and I'm committed to working incredibly hard to get the funding to finish it beyond the design build aspect of it. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay, we have time. We have 5 minutes for questions. So I don't know who's on the mics.
No, no.
No?
We can ask one question.
Well,
You need to borrow one of your mics.
Borrow one of the mics.
Who's asking?
okay, let's get a question. Doug, pick somebody.
Okay, Sarah.
Thank you so much. So I was born and raised here, but left for 30-some years. So got lucky enough to come back a few years ago. And I know what's happened in the last year or two on the sewage, and I've seen a lot of hard work. But my question is how did this how come things weren't started maybe 10 years ago, or what historically, is it just that now we're suddenly testing at higher levels because we have a more efficient or a more sensitive test? Or have we been ignoring this problem? So I'd like some historic context on the sewage.
Okay, so we're a little bit off script. We'll start with Casey, go to Mike, and then go to John. You've got 30 seconds each.
So the sewage problem has been around for a very long time. Ask Imperial Beach. They've been dealing with it for decades. I was mayor over the Obama years. So from 2008 to 2016, we didn't have beach closures. So for Coronado's purposes, we weren't being tasked, go work on this. And the mayor of Imperial Beach, while I was mayor, was Jim Janney, and he wasn't coming to me saying, hey, Coronado, I need you to be shoulder to shoulder with us. But around 2016, around 2017, the infrastructure that was built in earlier years and decades, as it starts to fail, as it's not, if you think about a car not getting oil changes, as that maintenance isn't being done, the failures are getting more extreme, and every time you have a storm event, that gets exacerbated. When Serge Denis became mayor, that was his #1 issue, and he was like, we need a, well, I'm out of time.
Okay,
I'll
we
let
need,
the other
we
guys.
need to pass the mic to Mike.
Yeah, to try to answer in 30 seconds or less, this problem has been, kind of a ticking time bomb for decades. And just as a matter of fact, when I got on the council in 2016, we had this huge, multi-million gallon spill. And I still see pictures of this big brown blob. And when we looked into it, we were pointing our finger at Mexico and saying, you guys are messing up. And then when we got the first round of money, we found out that we had to use half of that for maintenance on our own plant because the South Bay sewage treatment plant, which EPA is responsible, IBWC, it wasn't even working. So, that's how this all ended up. And it's just gotten worse and worse. My sense is that, am I out? As Tijuana has grown, it just, their infrastructure hasn't grown.
Okay, John.
So to me, this problem is sort of analogous to there's a big burning fire heading towards your community, and do you wait until your door's on fire to address it, or do you start addressing it, right? This has been going on for a long time. I will say that one of the main problems is that the IBWC is under the State Department, okay? And that one of their lowest priorities is dealing with something like this. And the IBWC had been keeping all their information quiet about the maintenance and everything else about the plant on our side of the border. It really was atrocious. It was, I discovered it or heard it and then verified at the end of the meeting it was accurate, that the plant had broken down prior to April 2023 when I was at a USMCA EPA meeting. They did disclose for the first time, and it was, why didn't you disclose this before? They said, well, we're not a lobbying agency. We're part of the federal government. But yeah, you have to tell us so we can lobby. They did not have a maintenance budget. They do all the waterways between Mexico and the United States, including the Rio Grande, okay? The diverter gate got stuck open, the plant broke down. Now we have disclosure, and we're gonna do much better. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm sure the candidates are happy to stick around after the meeting to answer individual questions. And thank you all to the candidates for a great debate. Thank you all for coming, and have a great Rotary week.